Hey everybody, it's Dave here from Blue Bears Games. Today's video is going to be a $20 budget deck video. However, I want to put something in the beginning of it to kind of go over something that happened today. This is actually take 2 or version 2 of the video for this deck. It will be a budget deck on Jersey Devils, a deck I put together recently. I wanted to address the first video and a comment that was made on it. Today they announced the new Pioneer format for Magic, which is from Return to Ravnica forward. For some reason in my head, that included the Innistrad block, and this deck has a lot of Innistrad block cards in it. So I was incorrect. I was wrong. I do apologize for that. I don't know why I keep thinking Innistrad was after Return to Ravnica. It is not. This deck will not be a Pioneer-friendly deck. But I wanted to also address the second part of the comment that was made. The comment was made that in a deck like this, and you will see this as I go through it, and I will explain it as, you know, when I get to it. I use in a lot of my decks what I call faux fetches, okay? Doesn't matter if they're controlled, doesn't matter if they're aggressive, it doesn't matter if they're combo. I do that for a reason. These decks are not, you know, tier 1 decks that I'm making here. These are $20 budget decks. It's to help teach different aspects of the game and how to use them and when to use them. So for instance, my faux fetches are Evolving Wilds or Terramorphic Expanses. The lands come into play tapped. I know that. In an aggro deck, I know for a fact that is not the optimal way to use it. You would use the vistas from Modern Horizons, or you'd use an actual regular fetch land. However, those cards are more expensive than the entire rest of the deck and goes against the principle of what I'm trying to show. Yes, they are more optimal. They don't bring lands into play tapped. I get that. What I try to teach is that when you can make your draws better, however that's accomplished, in this case, I only have the capability of putting faux fetches in because I make probably about 30 or 40 decks. They're all budget decks. So I have to teach it some way, and that's the only way I can teach it. So with that said, we're going to get into the deck. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is Jersey Devils. The reason why the name Jersey Devils is I am from New Jersey. So I had to come up with something, and the only way I could do that was in the way of Magic, Devils. So we're going to go ahead and take a look. Now, this is the first card I said was part of the new Pioneer format. It is correct. This was reprinted in one of the modern or base sets, and it is in the Pioneer. But let's go ahead and take a look at the deck. We'll go over that again later. So it's 1 to cast, 1/1 that deals 1 damage to you and 1 damage to a creature. It helps eliminate on your opponent's side things that have toughness of 1. It's to help clear the board. So I've got 2 of those in there. I got Footlight Fiends. The reason that I made this deck specifically, other than the fact that I needed to come up with something that would tie into my Jersey roots, was Devils, for lack of a better term, have an ability that would be devilish. When they die, they deal damage to something. Not all of them do that, but a lot of them do. So Footlight Fiend is the first of the many that we're going to go over. This is the 1-drop, 1/1 that when it dies, it deals 1 damage to something. Torch Fiend is in there for in case your opponent has troublesome artifacts. It's the 2 to cast, and the 2 power makes it a little bit better than just a 1/1. So that's what I put in there. I put 2 of them in there. Scolding Devil is for when the board is clogged. It's a 2 to cast, 1/1. Its ability is reusable over and over again. So it's not a tap ability. It can be used multiple times. And it deals 1 damage to a player. Again, for when the board is clogged, if you guys are just sitting at a stalemate, you have an ability that will help finish off your opponent. So I've gone ahead and put 2 of those in there as well. The next card is Heckling Fiend. It's a 2 to cast, 2/1. Again, with the 2 power, helps kind of close the game out a little bit faster if it's a cheap drop and your opponent doesn't have anything to block with. When he enters the battlefield, he deals a damage to each opponent. I know that the multiplayer Magic is done with Commander now. Back in the day, we used to do 60-card regular decks as our multiplayer format. Unfortunately, that has been replaced with Commander. I say unfortunately because I have a lot of decks that fit that format because it was fun. I do also have a lot of Commander decks. I love Commander, but it makes certain abilities for certain cards not as useful without the regular original multiplayer format available. So he deals 1 damage to each opponent. In this case, it would probably be 1 opponent. He also has Delirium. Delirium is a unique ability for him at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep. Now, again, we're not playing multiplayer, so it would be the only opponent you probably have. If you have 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, he deals 1 damage to that player. So, card types include creatures, instants, sorceries, enchantments, artifacts, planeswalkers. So, they have to have 4 different types. Land is included in that as well. So, and that is actually another reason why I included the aforementioned faux fetches, is because the amount of creature types, or the amount of card types you have to have, it's easier to get if you have something in there that can add to that. So that's why I put that in there. Alright, next card up is Heckling Fiends. 3 to cast 2/2, and for 3, and again, this is not a tap ability, this is a reusable ability. Target creature has to attack this turn if able. It doesn't have to be your own. Obviously, you would use this against your opponent on his creatures to make him attack with creatures he normally would not. So if you've built up an army, they have 1 or 2, or maybe even they have an army, but you guys are just sitting there, you can force him to attack with specific creatures and make unfavorable matchups for him. So, and again, it's a colon, it's not a tap ability, you can do it to as many as you want as long as you have the mana. Alright, next up is Riot Devils. This is our vanilla creature. To fill in some space, I had to get some devils in here so that we could fit the theme. This is a 3 to cast 2/3. In Magic, we've seen 3 to cast 3/2s. This is, just reverse of that. It's a 2/3. It's more for defense in case you need it, but it can still attack for 2. So I went ahead and put 2 of those in there. Next up, we have the Havoc Devils. It is a 4 to cast 4/3, so a higher attack. It has Trample, so if you can make it bigger, it helps you get your damage through, because Trample is a pretty good ability for having damage get through to your opponent when they're hoping not to. Can't jump block it because it'll go through. So I put 4 of those in there so that it stops the ability of your opponent to chump block it. I mean, they can, but they'll still take the damage. Next up is Pitchburn Devils. It's 5 to cast 3/3. When it dies, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player instead of that normal 1 that the Footlight had. It is 3 damage to target creature or player. Now, I haven't looked at the rulings on this. I don't remember. I know that they recently just changed rulings that when it was to target creature or player, they used to have the any target, and then they changed it to any target being when it's player, it does or it does not, depending on the ruling on the card, hit planeswalkers as well. I haven't looked at the data on this card yet. I believe that when it says target creature or player, it also includes planeswalker. There is a plethora of resources to look that up, but either way, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So, what that means is that you can actually block something bigger with it and still kill it, because you'll do not just the 3 power to it, but you'll also deal the 3 extra damage that it deals for its ability. Next up, we have Ganga Devils. It's 6 to cast 3/3. This one's kind of similar to the Pitchburn. When it dies, it deals 3 damage divided any way you choose amongst 1, 2, or 3 creatures or players. So, what that means is if you attack in and they block it and kill it, and they have a assortment of, say, token 1/1s, you can actually ping each one of them off with this, or at least 3 of them anyway. Alright, up next is Make Mischief, following our devil theme. It deals a damage to a creature or player for 3. It also creates a 1/1 devil that when it dies, it deals 1 damage to a creature or player. It's basically it's creating a Footlight Fiend, only this is a red instead of a red and black. So I went ahead and put 4 of those in there, because who doesn't like direct damage that also creates a creature? Next up is Dance with the Devils. It's a 4 to cast instant. Now, the Make Mischief is a sorcery, so it can only be cast on your turn. This is important because this one's an instant. This helps with combat tricks. So if it's your opponent's turn, they're attacking, they think they have you, you may be able to surprise them with this. Throw out the 2 1/1s. They have the devilish ability to it. That's what I'm going to call it from now on, the devilish ability. That when they die, they deal 1 damage to a creature or player, so you can chump block or possibly block and kill them due to its ability and the power that the creatures have. So it's an instant. Keep that in mind when you're playing. Next up is Street Spasm. This one is kind of an important board sweeper, but not for you. Most things like Earthquake deal the damage to your own creatures. Fault Line, I believe, is another one from way back in Urza Saga. It deals damage to everything that is not flying. This says deals X damage to the target creature without flying you don't control. And then the Overload is where it gets really, really, really nice. The Overload says you may cast this spell for its Overload cost, and if you do, change the text by replacing all instances of target with each. So, what that means is that if you cast it and you're able to say it, put 6 mana into it, so the 2 red go into it, and then the extra 4 end up being double X of 2, you can deal 2 damage to each creature you don't control, essentially wiping the board on your opponent's side if you have enough mana. So I went ahead and put 2 of those in there just to help you clear your opponent's board. Some direct damage for you because it's red, and red always likes to have direct damage. So I put 4 shots in there so you can deal, spot removal damage. Hopefully your opponent's creatures aren't like monstrous. You can kind of remove them from the board. Arc Lightning, same thing, direct damage. It's spot removal. Also, it's dividable. You can go ahead and divide it up. Divisible, whatever you want to use, sorry. 3 damage divided any way you choose among 3 target creatures, 1, 2, or 3 target creatures or players. Again, same theme with the creature that does that. You can start to eliminate multiple 1/1s or possibly a 2/2 and a 1/1 off your opponent's side of the board. Or if it's lethal for your opponent, go ahead and just hit them in the dome. I put 2 of those in there. Now for the rares. First one up, Impetuous Devils. Anybody who knows what a Ball Lightning is, Ball Lightning is essentially the same thing. Ball Lightning is a 3 red, 6/1 trample haste, and then you sacrifice it at the end of the turn. This is a 6/1 trampling haste and sacrifice at the end of turn 2. For 4, however, it has the little ability of when it attacks, up to 1 target creature defending player controls blocks it if able. Now, if they're sitting back, this is kind of like one of those things where it is equivalent to like double lightning bolt. You make them, but not for the, I say double lightning, I mean for creature removal. You make them have to block this in order to either A, kill the creature, or B, kill the creature and get damage through. So it's good to have, it almost fits into the devilish ability. It's just making things hectic on your opponent's side. So I put 1 of those in there. The next one is the heart of the deck as far as your rares go. Hell Rider. He's a 4-cast 3/3 haste. Haste isn't so important. It's nice to have because you can get it makes it so you don't have to wait the turn to attack with it, and you can cast it and attack and surprise your opponent with it. But whenever any creature, now remember this can go into any red deck, it could go into a goblin deck, it could go into anything. Any kind of aggro deck, this guy's pretty good. Whenever a creature you control attacks, defending Hell Rider himself deals 1 damage to the defending player. So if you swarm the board and you get 7 creatures or 8 creatures on the board, him being one of them, and you just attack, all 7, you'll deal 7 damage to them without anything else happening. And remember, these are devils, so their devilish ability is that when they die, they deal damage. So you could possibly get off a 1-shot, on 1 combat. Cast them, attack in, say all your guys die. You say you have the 7. Hopefully you've done damage to them before that, but say you've got the 7 in, you could deal up to 14, maybe even 21 damage to them. If your guys die and there's enough, their ability to have enough damage to go ahead and finish off your opponent. So he's the heart of the deck. You want to build around him. Alright, next is Devil's Playground. It is a 6-cast sorcery. Put 4 1/1 red devil creature tokens into play. They have the devilish ability. When they die, they deal damage to target creature or player. So it fits the theme really nicely. It puts a lot of them out. 4 is pretty good because that's essentially, it's 4 power, but it's 8 damage possible. So, and then of course my special card. I always put a full card into these decks. Dictator of the Twin Gods fits extremely well into this deck. I know I use this card a lot. I like this card a lot because it helps with combat tricks. It helps with surprising your opponent. It itself has flash, so you can cast this on your opponent's turn. Usually your ideal play with this one is with the Hell Rider out, because remember it doubles. If a source at all would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead. So Hell Rider goes out, you're attacking. Say you have 7/1/1 Devils. You attack, the Hell Rider does 7, it turns into 14. All your Devils die. Instead of doing 1, they do 2. So this is essentially your finisher. You can cast it on at the end of your opponent's turn, take your turn, cast Hell Rider, win the game. All right, we're a monocolor deck, so it's mostly mountains for the basics. I got Desert of the Fervent in there. I'm a big fan of trying to make your draws better. So if you have to draw a land, you hope that you can do something with it. This one can cycle, so that way you can draw into a better card. This is for late game. I will explain that in a second, because apparently there was a comment about something like this, and I want to go over that. So I got 2 of those in there. The 2 Evolving Wilds that were aforementioned is to, again, eliminate bad draws of land later in the game. Actually, I've got 4. I apologize. I'm actually going to change that out. I'm going to make that 2, and I'm going to go find 2, I believe they're called Looming Spires. I don't remember exactly their name, but the card that I'm going to eliminate 2 of the Evolving Wilds with, I'm going to actually turn into a, I believe it was, what is it? It's, when it comes into play, it comes into play tapped, and it gives a creature +1/+1. So I'm going to actually change that out. But I want to kind of go over the whole Evolving Wilds thing just one more time. Yes, I will take 2 of them out. I do know that when you play Evolving Wilds, it takes the tempo of an aggro deck out. I get that. But again, these are budget decks. They're only $20. Having the Vista or Visitate, I can't remember the name of the card. The one from Modern Horizons that basically acts like a fetch, but for basics. You pay a life, you go get a basic, you put it into play. There's a new one from Throne of Eldraine that says you can sacrifice it, and it basically acts like an Evolving Wild. Search your library for a basic land, put it into play tapped. If you control 4 or more basics, untap it. I get it. Tempo is what is the name of the game for aggro. These are budget decks. These are to help you teach you the little basics of things that are going to go on in the game. I would love to be able to afford for a $20 budget deck to throw, any of those in, a regular fetch, because you do. A lot of players with slide decks or with, mono red aggro decks, they put in things like a regular fetch, like the blue-red fetch. They put it in there so that they can get a land into play. It's untapped. They paid the life, but it's worth it because it's untapped and you don't lose any tempo. I get that. Unfortunately, that's not what the whole point of these are. So I wanted to get that across. I get it. It is not ideal. These decks are $20 decks. They're not ideal decks. They're not for, pros. They're not for those that are not, these are not intermediate or pro level decks. These are beginner decks to help teach little things here and there. So hopefully that explains a little bit more about how that goes and why all these decks have certain things in them. On top of that, I did want to mention, I don't know if I'm going to release this video tomorrow or later tonight. Today they announced Pioneer, okay? In my haste of releasing this, I woke up this morning, saw the announcement for the banned and restricted list because I knew that they were going to today. My plan was to plan out my con based upon what they banned today for standard. I was not, and I don't think a lot of people were, expecting them to announce a new format. So in my haste, when I saw that, I went ahead and made the version 1 of this video hastily. I do actually have a deck that I was going to do today. And that deck, the statement I made in my previous video was that this deck has 1 card in it that if you change that will be Pioneer illegal. That was incorrect. The other deck I'm going to do later, that deck, that statement holds true. I grabbed the wrong deck, and you have to excuse me, I do have MS, so when I have a little bit of pressure under me, I do panic and I do make mistakes. I'm only human. I apologize for that. So we're going to ignore that and move on and have the explanation here. So if anybody has any issues, go ahead and send me a message. You can go ahead onto the Facebook page, send me a message. I will gladly conversate with anybody about it. So either way, that is $20 budget decks, Jersey Devils.